Welcome everyone. We are here. We're still in Brazil, and we have a special guest joining us from Vienna. It is BenCB789. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm great. What's up?
All right. So, just to give you guys a little information on Ben, not a lot going on here, other than we're gonna go through a really interesting hand we have from the 10K progressive knockout. That was the PokerStars High Roller Series last week. Ben made the final table. This is one of the highlight events of the series. These tournaments are really fun. They're unique, where it is not just a set amount per bounty. It actually the player bounties increase as they knock out players. So at the end, it really gets intense, and the bounties are huge money. And it's kind of a different format. You know, it is. You just have to pay attention to how much the bounties are. The math changes. Some really interesting spots. So, you know, this is a treat. You're at the final table, and we're going to look at a couple interesting hands. Why don't you walk us through this one, but also give us a little background who some of these players are, what's at stake, and how you would come from a GTO kind of perspective. What changes, and how do you break down this type of tournament?
Yeah, of course, bounties are getting more and more popular, but I feel like in these days, people are lacking a little bit of mathematical fundamentals in these games. We have a very interesting final table with one of the best players in the world. I mean, we have European, we have Hello Totti, we have Mexican, Antidor, which all those Timacha, all those people have been around for quite some time. Also, Flong, I think, is a high stakes cash game player, so all of them are great players. I think there were two recreational players sitting on the final table. Probably also very experienced, not necessarily as experienced as the others, but I would definitely not call them as weak opponents. They have been shown a lot of aggressions, final two tables. They are definitely not afraid of getting involved into big pots and fighting for the title. So that was a really, really thrilling final table. And I picked this hand, and we're going to have another hand as well if we have the time. But as you just mentioned, in the later stage, the bounties are getting bigger. And this leads to a huge fallacy in bounty tournaments, because most people think at the end it's worth chasing for the bounties, but it is actually not. Because for one reason, in progressive knockout tournaments, you have two separate prize pools, the normal prize pool and the bounty prize pool. The longer the tournament goes, the more, or the closer we get to heads up, the less money is in the bounty prize pool, right? Because if you knock out a player, there will be money taken out of the bounty prize pool, and it goes on the top of your head. And it's also worth to try to reach the heads up, because then you fight even for your own bounty. So you have this, I call it, little extra ICM pressure of reaching the heads up. This equity of reaching heads up and having the equity to win your own bounty is huge. I mean, you just have to see the price structures. I think in this tournament, Timacha won something like 320K. Second place, European won 180K, and I won 110K. So the gaps are huge in bounty tournaments. So you definitely want to make a top position. Yet, you have to consider ICM a lot. And I picked this spot here because at this point in time, Antidor had a huge bounty on his head. And I was tanking for a bit whether I have to make the call here, because he can even have king queen suited, ace jack suited, the pairs in his range. So the vast majority of the time, I'm going to flip against his range. And with his huge bounty, it might be worse to take a flip. At this point in time, because I was putting a lot of effort in studying these spots lately. Of course, I was also preparing the final table before the day before, or at the same day actually. And I was feeling pretty uncomfortable making the call here, because my intuition, my ICM background said, no, this cannot be a good call given my stack size situation, and I'm going to risk pretty much 2/3 of my entire stack, and then I'm going to be one of the short stacks. And I have still 3 players left to act that can wake up with a hand, and Timacha as well. Of course, he can even then call pretty light, because now there are two bounties he can fight for. So he gets even a better price to make a loose call. I haven't done the calculations for him if I come along and call, if he can call with a hand like 9s or 7, even 7-6 suited. But I might not be surprised, because for him, he has still 600K left. He has still a healthy stack. So for him, it's much easier to hunt bounties. I also put in the number into ICMizer, are you familiar with this?
Yes.
Have you ever worked with? Yeah, it's a great tool. It has a knockout feature, so you can enter the knockouts here. And I was playing around a little bit, and I remember that at this point in time, he had around 18,000, a bounty of 18,000 on his head, which was even much bigger than the next price jump. And I was putting Timacha on that range here. Maybe I don't know if you can see it, but it's roughly 25% of hands he's open raising with.
Right.
And this guy, anti-door, is rejamming something like 10s plus, ace jack plus. 7s plus, ace jack plus. And then I was calculating the spot, and it says that ace queen off and even ace queen suited are clear folds. Even ace king is pretty close. But he really has to rejam those hands, and I highly doubt if he's even rejamming 7s and ace jack, because actually Nash-wise, it is not a rejam, right? I was just, based on my experience, I feel like he might rejam those hands. If you guys have seen the footage on YouTube, he was making some quite some tight folds, which is mathematically correct, because he's in a situation that everybody will call light against him, right, and he can only get it in with really strong hands. Because there's a shorter stack. So for him, there's still a lot of ICM pressure. Also a similar stack. So it's not that he is in a very desperate situation. He can still wait a few more orbits to get a better hand. So if we take out ace jack off, you see that ace queen off becomes a crystal clear fold.
Okay.
And I haven't even considered yet the overcalling range. So you can see here that the overcalling ranges are empty. If we now also calculate the likelihood of someone waking up with a hand, it gets even worse, right?
Yeah.
It's like it gets really bad. So in this particular situation, one takeaway from bounty tournaments on final tables here is, when you have the opportunity to fight for a big bounty, but you put a lot of damage on your stack in case you lost, you might become a short stack, or you have only a few big blinds left. You have to be quite tight, pretty much as similar as in a normal freeze-out tournament.
Okay. So yeah, so that would be, that might be a misconception. That's interesting when you break it down. So you ended up, so he went all in, and you folded, and someone did wake up behind?
And we saved our stack by... Yeah, I'm really grateful I invested the hours. Remember, we actually wanted to record this day, and I messaged you, hey buddy, I need to put in some hours, I need to study some spots. If I wouldn't have prepared the final table, I'm very certain I would have made the call. Yeah. And pretty much lost my tournament life here, or would have been down to 10 big blinds. So you can see it's really worth to prepare your final table, to just simulate some spots. You don't need to simulate every single spot, just some common spots, especially very, very tricky spots like these, overcalling, where you can do a lot of mistakes.
Right. That makes sense. Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a close spot. And so after, with your studying, if you had ace queen suited, would you have folded, or do you think you would have realized?
Ace queen suited, I would have tanked a little bit longer, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, you can see it's super close, but yeah, it's definitely those are the things you need to know. And if you're in there playing without thinking about it in the first place, that's a problem. You don't want to come there and then just start like being just lost. So yeah, I think that's important. Yeah. And that's why people can get a lot of benefit to kind of think about this. It's not necessarily, doesn't have to be a 10K. There's the 215 bounty builders. They're all the way down to the 44 and lower. And the progressive bounty builders, it's starting to become, like you said, more and more popular. So it is really important to start to think about it. It may not, this is some high tech stuff, plugging it in, going through it, but just being able to understand that you really need to be aware of this is important, and then you can kind of go from there with studying. So very interesting.
I have another spot that shows the complete opposite here. Now we have a much bigger stack, around 1.3 million, and now he open jams around 13 big blinds, 13 big blinds, and even though he's just jamming 27% of hands, we are forced to call it off with 7-3 suited.
I remember this one.
Yeah.
And
so. Yeah, and he can only jam 27% according to Nash, because I have to call it off so wide. And his ICM pressure is much more because he puts his tournament life at stake. Whereas I don't, and I'm not putting really any damage on my stack.
And explain to people what that means according to Nash, for those of them maybe that are just casual YouTube watchers, like if you're at a final table, and just what Nash refers to.
Nash refers to some kind of equilibrium between two players. So Nash is some sort of optimal strategy for both players. So if player A plays an optimal strategy, it gives player B an optimal strategy, and where both players cannot really exploit each other. So this is always something you can orientate on or hold on to if you want to study these short stack spots. You can Google for Nash calling, Nash pushing, or Nash calculators, and then you can plug in these spots and see what is your jamming range, what is your calling range, and that's very important for ICM. It goes back to Mr. Nash, the guy that invented the Nash equilibrium based on the theory, the game theory, and then ICM is based on that model of Nash. And in this particular spot, it means that the optimal strategy for small blind is 27%, and my optimal counter strategy is to call it off at 75%. If one of these players is adjusting from that range, we will move into an environment of playing exploitively. That means either calling off tighter, calling off loser, or let's say we're not aware of the bounties we call tighter. That means that now there's a new equilibrium where the small blind player can suddenly jam 30%, 35%. And now he can take advantage of our tight calling range and basically make more money through making loser pushes.
Right. That makes sense. So yeah. So you called there, and that's a hand definitely you were happy to see being live and
being live, hunting for bounties, having a little sweat. Yeah. The takeaway here, if you have a big stack and you're not really putting any damage on your own stack, if you call and you lose, you can call fairly loose, but only if you go for big bounties. If there's just like very small bounties, and that's the beauty about these programs. Let's say he just has a 5K bounty.
And you're saying his was 18 at this time, or was it even bigger?
Yeah, it was 18 or even bigger. It doesn't matter. If I can call it off against an 18K bounty, I can also call it off against. It might have been even over 20K.
Right.
And as you can see here now he can jam 37%, and I can only call off 31%, and then 7-3 suited is a fold.
Right. Yep. It's super interesting. Now the bounty build. These PKOs, I think they've been a great addition. I know they have the 530 now daily. They have some other stuff they've added, so it's good to see. And I think the players, it draws some more recreational players. It's kind of fun where you get some money back. It's also big purses and a little bit of a unique, different kick to the tournament scene, which is good. It's like the standard MTTs are cool, but it's nice to throw a little spice in there and add some different type things. So
absolutely,
very cool. Well, congrats again. That was a 100K plus score, third place. And again, Ben, I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. He does have the program Raise Your Edge. We'll have that on the screen. I've been working with Ben. I have been studying the program. It is fairly intensive, but for anyone that knows anything about poker, it's something that it's a very valuable tool. And people ask me about coaching, a fair amount with Twitch and stuff. And I really, truthfully, the value of the program, which there's a couple different prices, I know, like for different levels of what you want to get. But the reality is, like, paying myself or anyone really for an hour or 2 hours, whatever that hourly might be, 3 hours max for like a good professional poker player, let's just say. I mean, there's only so much you can really cover in a couple hours, where you have the access to this program, which we'll flash a little bit on this video as well and show what it looks like, the Tournament Masterclass. I mean, it's pretty incredible because you can go at your own leisure, your own time. You can log in. How many actual hours of content is it? It's got to be like over 30 or 40. I mean, it's a lot.
I lost track of it because you constantly update it. We currently work on our exclusive range viewer. You probably have seen it, where you can just click through the tabs, every single range displayed within seconds, super clear. And we're constantly improving that, but we lately also have been adding more courses for heads up, for playing, adding multi-way defending ranges. We are updating the ranges constantly, adding more stuff. If something we feel is outdated, we are updating it. So we always try to keep it as updated as possible. In addition, we have the private Discord group with all the tournament masterclass members where we exchange thoughts. People can get feedback on hands or if they have questions or whatsoever.
Absolutely. I will say this, like, it's just a no-brainer. Like, I honestly feel I'm almost stealing from someone if they're paying me, let's say $400 or $500 an hour versus, like, you know, that's like 2 hours of the master class or 1 hour of the regular class plus with the discount. So it's like, it's kind of like you could pay a play. I don't even know what your hourly is per hour, but it's kind of how I feel with Twitch. Like, I'd rather stream on Twitch and kind of to the masses. Like I was saying with you, I'm sure you'd rather work on your course and improve it where you can get, you know, thousands of players can have access to it than just spend an hour with one player. You know, it's sort of just better for everyone, I think, these type of programs. So, you know, it's a treat. It's awesome. I'm enjoying it. I'm working on it. I'm constantly reading and kind of realizing too, you know, how my tournament game has a lot of leaks. And I feel like I do a lot of things maybe really well that maybe even some other players don't have, but realizing these type of charts, these type of numbers, these types of studying, these types of ranges, what hands to be 3-betting with under certain blinds or to be, you know, jamming versus 3-betting, and just some kind of leaks in my game that were pretty apparent right away that I think is, you know, it's just invaluable. So I'm a huge fan of the program, and it's been great working with you, and I would highly recommend people to check it out. And you guys also have a YouTube channel. You have a Discord channel for Raise Your Edge. Yeah. And there's a lot of free content as well. So, you know, if you don't want to make the splunge, because it is a little bit expensive, and depending, obviously it's worth it in pretty much anyone's scenario. But yeah, if you're starting out poker player or you're brand new or you don't have a bankroll, you know, it's a little bit expensive. So maybe check it out, see if you like it first. So anyway, yeah, highly recommend it. Check it out. There's I could keep going on and on, but it's really cool. So
that is one reason why we also recently started the YouTube channel, also Instagram, because so many people have been coming to us like, Ben, it's quite an investment for me. I understand, but people also have to understand this is the knowledge I've gathered throughout the last 5 years, and I put everything into one course, and so I think everybody that is having at least a somewhat decent hourly, like $10, $8, I don't know, it's worth purchasing it, because it saves you so much time exploring everything by yourself. It's going to save you so much money not doing the same mistakes others do, or I even did. Your learning curve is just going up so tremendously that I think it's, as you mentioned, it's a no-brainer. But if not, that's why we started the YouTube channel. Like, okay, listen, then I want to give you the opportunity to learn through the content we offer for free, either on YouTube, Instagram, or whatever it is. So then feel free to soak it up. And then at some point, if you really want to start crushing and work more detailed on your game, then maybe you jump on our course at a later point in time. That's totally up to you. So my goal was always to get, let's say, my content to as many people as possible, because I'm really grateful. I really appreciate what I have accomplished, and I realize I have only accomplished it also because of others. Others have helped me. Friends of mine have brought me into poker. So my success is so much related to others that I felt obligated to give something back.
Yeah, and it's also, you know, it's one of those things where I'll see people on the tables with the RYE logo, or you know, you see it or you wonder, and people say too, like, oh, like, isn't this giving it away? This is going to make the game, you know, kill the game or whatever. But the reality is, first of all, just if you get this program, it doesn't mean you're going to be able to implement it all. It takes a lot of time, and it's just sort of, you know, it's like anything. There's a way to study. There's a way to get practice. There's a way to get better. You give Steph Curry, you give a different player the set of drills to do to win. It doesn't mean that, you know, anyone's just going to become the best in the world. It's going to take a lot of work. It's going to take effort. Going to take time, practice. And, you know, that's another thing too. It's like you put in so many hours. I put in so many hours practicing, trial and error, learning. You know, the more you play, the more practice you have, the better baseline you have, to kind of have a good idea of what works and doesn't. And I think that's the cool part, is it kind of clicks when you look at certain situations or scenarios, or even maybe it's small blind, big blind play, that you realize that you just are way off on your ranges or what's going on or your strategy. So it could be, you know, you could be a very good poker player but have like a few major leaks or flaws or just super uncomfortable, that it could just click where, you know, maybe one video, one section just kind of gives you that extra boost where you're just not there. So yeah, I think it's, you know, there's a lot of ways it can improve you, and, you know, just never know exactly what it might be, but it's definitely a great tool. So yeah, congrats on the program. I know it's been doing very well, and I see a lot of people giving great feedback on it. So BenCB789 for Raise Your Edge. Check it out. Check him out. Look him up, and the results speak for themselves. And yeah, I don't know if we'll do those 2 hands to the 10K. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We have some other videos recently as well. So we have a couple of hands we've done. We're going to keep doing this with Ben, and anytime we can get him on, we're gonna grab him and try to knock these hands down. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we will be seeing you very soon. For Jeff Gross, BenCB789, and Raise Your Edge.
It was a pleasure. See you guys.
We'll see you guys later.
It was all a dream, and if you don't know